Alright, so this is the original formula, and then after that you plug in the numbers. So you would get the -5 goes where A is, and then B is 3, and then C is pi. After that you use the amplitude equals the absolute value. So here you plug in A, so A is -5. After you find the absolute value, A equals 5.
Ready. Find the phase shift of the function y equals cosine parentheses x minus pi over 2 parentheses. You first have to write out the phase shift equation, which is y equals cosine a cosine b parentheses x minus c parentheses. C equals phase shift, so C equals pi over 2.
So our problem is arc sin parentheses 5/8 close parentheses equals a, then ... So our first step is to write an equation, which we have. So then we would have to move on to our second step, which is to switch the inverse. The reason why we switch the inverse is to get rid of the -1 or the arc sign. And so it'd be sin a is equal to 5/8, and so therefore we get our answer as sin a is equal to 5/8.
Alright, so first we got to make it an equation with alpha and make it an inverse. Then obviously you got to flip them. So you got -1 equals tan of alpha. Alright, so tan's going to be the range from that. Okay, so we know it's going to be in quadrant 1 or quadrant 4. And tan is y over x. So let's put that to remind ourselves. And up here, all the y over x is going to be positive, so we know it's going to be negative down here. And let's see, right here, negative radical 2 over 2 equals -1. So we know it is equal to negative pi over 4, and in degrees, negative pi over 4 equals negative 45 degrees. And that is your answer.
I love math. You don't love math? What's wrong with you?
So our problem is number 9 on last year's quiz, which is
I love
one
math.
trig function over one period. Be sure to include table of values and label your axes clearly. So our equation is y equals 2 cosine pi x, and we use our starting equation y equals a cosine bx. So a is 2 and b is pi, but we have to use the period equation to solve it. So we do 2 pi over b, which is 2 pi over pi, which we simplify to 2. C, there's no physical shift, and D, there's no vertical shift.
Alrighty, so to find your starting point and ending point, you have to use this inequality. So 0 less than or equal to pi x is less than or equal to 2 pi. In order to get x by itself, you have to divide pi, so you get rid of the pi. And you divide it to both sides, and you get 0 less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 2. So that's our inequality, so that's our starting and ending point. And this is our table of values right here. So all you have to do is multiply pi with x. So pi times 0 is 0, pi times 1/2 is pi over 2, pi times 1 is pi times 3 over 2 is 3 pi over 2, pi times 2 is 2 pi, and then cosine of pi of x is 1, 0, -1, 0, 1, and you just do the same thing over, and that's how we got this table of values. And then we plotted this on the graph above here. So these are our points. So at 2 cosine pi over x, it's 2, 0, -2, 0, and 2, and that is y equals 2 cosine of pi of x.
So our problem is sine parentheses inverse of cosine -3 over 4, and we have to separate sine and cosine by making sine's letter a theta and then making cosine the equation itself. So we put a theta over here, which equals inverse cosine -3 over 4, and then we had to switch -3 over 4 and a theta, which turns into cosine equals -3 over 4, and cosine is x over r, and we have to graph it, but first we have to find where cosine is negative. So we use all students take calculus to find out where it's at. So all, which is all everything is positive over here and cosine is positive over here, so we know that it's negative over here. And then by knowing that it's negative 3 over 4, we know that x is negative 3, so it's going to be up here. And then, so x is negative 3, and then since it's x over r is obviously 4. And we have to find y by using the Pythagorean theorem, which is r squared equals x squared plus y squared. And we input the 4 and negative 3 into the r value and the x value, which is parentheses 4 squared equals negative 3 squared plus y squared. And negative 4 squared equals 16, and negative 3 squared is 9. So it's 16 equals 9 plus y squared, which turns into, you subtract 9 first, and so it turns into 7 equals y squared, but then we had to square root it, which turns into a y equals plus or minus radical 7. So then we had to go back to sine, because the original question is to solve for sine, which is sine equals y over r. And then by doing all of the Pythagorean theorem, we have found out what y equals. So then sine equals radical 7 over 4.
I love math. You don't love math? What's wrong with you?